Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spincast. Today, we're diving back into the great world of collegiate esports. Today, we're joined by John O'Neill. He is the head coach and coordinator of the esports program at Nova. So without further ado, John, go ahead, introduce yourself. Give us a little bit about your background, right? How'd you get started in esports, and how did that kind of take you into your current role there at Nova?
For sure. Well, I started esports probably in my teens. I played on a couple like amateur Halo teams. Um, it kind of snowballed into me getting like a PC, playing some CS:GO. I didn't really understand like esports how big it was back then until I watched the Boston Major for CS:GO when Cloud9 won,
Yep.
and like that's when it like kind of like jump started for me, and I was like, I want to get into this. I was going to college at the time. I didn't really know, like, I didn't have any, like, I came out of high school, I was in, like, ROTC and stuff, like, that was kind of, like, my friend group area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I got to college, I didn't really have that area. All my friends went off to four-year schools, I was at a community college.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I saw there was an esports program, I tried out. I didn't make it actually the first two times. I tried out for an Overwatch team, I didn't make it.
Yeah.
I got called back again because people kept leaving. That's the life of a community college.
Sure.
And I got on that time, and it kind of went from I was a player on JV to a player on varsity to we got to go to like a LAN event, and we won the LAN event. And then after that, I was kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to hang up my player. Now I'm gonna become a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I coached Overwatch for 2 years, or like a semester, 2 semesters. Sorry, I get them mixed up. And then this year, I actually got the opportunity to like head coach and coordinate some games, and that's really where I'm at right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Great to hear. Great to hear that success story and that transition, because now you kind of have that experience in a number of different facets, right? Both playing and coaching. So you can take both those aspects to make your teams and your players better as well. But my first question is, tell me a little bit more about Nova. What games do you compete in? What competitions do you compete in? And kind of give me that snapshot of that competitive side of the program from that titles and competitions.
Yeah, for sure. So in the past, we only like offered 3 games. We were always Overwatch, League, Rocket League. That was us from the start. Actually, we just started with Overwatch in League of Legends, but when we had a transition of staff, we decided that we were going to have more games to give our students more opportunities. So we jumped into Rocket League. We jumped in. Well, yeah, we jumped into Rocket League, TFT, R6, and then when Valorant came out, so that was like we must do this. Like this is going to be huge in college. So we jumped into that. And then even going with next semester, we're going to offer even more games. We're bringing Call of Duty and Fortnite, which
Mm-hmm.
is like really big for us because it's getting huge in college, especially with plays versus like Fortnite's getting huge. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
absolutely.
where we're at now. We found our success really with Rocket League and Valorant. We're currently in like for our NJCAA, we have the NJCAA. We're in contention for a national championship. So
Awesome.
we'll see next week. Fingers crossed if we win it, but I'm pretty confident.
Awesome. Well, I'll definitely be rooting you on. Obviously, winning a national championship is a dream come true for any college, to say the least. But yeah, Valorant Rocket League, obviously we watch the games that are followed collegiately heavily because that's where we want our high school players to obviously have that recruiting arm, right? So if it's not really played in college, then obviously we don't really offer it. But in my opinion, Rocket League and Valorant will probably be the two biggest esports at almost every level, probably in the next 2 or 3 years, right? Might even surpass League of Legends. That's gonna be that like kind of that last frontier to beat. But it's so easy to watch both of those games, right? That's what I always come back to, right? League of Legends, its
Yep.
only downfall is like, well, two really, right? It's really hard to play and really hard to get into. And then it's really hard for people to watch, right? So for like, hey, mom, hey, dad, I'm playing for my college esports team. I'm playing League of Legends. Like, awesome, sweet. Where do I watch? Send them the Twitch link or whatever. And they're like, I have no idea what's going on. This is like absolutely incredibly confusing. But with Valorant and Rocket League, it's really easy to follow, right? And both, Riot and Psyonix / Epic are doing really good things to make it even easier to watch, right, from a spectator system. So that's awesome. Take me through, as my next question, take me through back to your playing days, what a day in the life of a collegiate esports athlete was. What did practice look like? How did you balance that with your academics? So on and so forth.
Yeah, so I know every college is different. We actually have an arena at our college. So Nova consists of I think it's 4 or 5 campuses, all spread
Mhm.
out through Northern Virginia. So we have like one central like location for college, and we had an arena there. So we'd be there 2 times a week, 4 to 7 one day, and then 7 to 10 another day.
Mm-hmm.
and that would just be like most of us were like 15 credit hours. We'd be done by 5 usually, and we'll just go to practice and get up there. We do our 4 to 7 practice, usually just like no scrim. We play comp, we play whatever, we go over strats, VODs.
Mm-hmm.
And then for our 7 to 10 practice, usually scrim session.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do like scrim, like it's usually 8 to 10, and we VOD review for the first hour. That's
Yeah.
usually how it was as a player. And then like when it comes to game days, you show up on Saturday, you don't know how long you're going to be there. You show up at 12, you're like, okay, I've been here for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we play. It's all, it was a fun life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of everyone's dream, right? Now tell me, now that you're one of the coaches, tell me kind of how that's changed and what new roles and new responsibilities you have now.
A lot. um, yeah, so it's more like I'm instead of like going to practice every day, it's I'm working every day with
Wow.
practice. So coordinating the matches at the beginning of the week, like with COVID and everything, it's been like we have to plan the matches at the beginning of the week. There's no set time or days just because not everyone has the same availability as everybody. So we have to like schedule the matches out for the week, and then yeah, and then keeping up with emails and that type of stuff, all your players, making sure their grades are good, all that type of stuff. So it's been pretty good. It's nothing crazy hard, but it's definitely like feels really good um to like help all these students and see like how they grow and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you kind of transition to that coaching role, from everyone that I've talked to and all these different spin casts that I've done, it's like a mountain of work, right? And especially in esports when it's still
Yeah.
so new, when there's really only like one or two coaches for like 5, 8, 10 teams, right? And you're sitting there like, wow, I'm the coach of Rocket League and Valorant and R6 and League of Legends. And it's like they all have matches tonight and they all have practices. So I have to make sure they're set up for success. At the same time, really, there should probably be 2 or 3 coaches per team, as we kind of we see in professional esports. When in reality, it's kind of like 1 per 4 or 5 titles. So it's kind of flipped there. Um, but take me through. We talked about it a little bit before we started the recording. Was that transition period in community college, right? How there's kind of a higher turnover rate as kids go to get scholarships. So take me through that kind of process from now your coaching role, and how you keep those spots full over time to make sure that you have full rosters.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have a problem with keeping our rosters full
Sure.
or keeping the interest up. We actually tried out like 140 kids last semester
Wow.
for like in total for all 4 of our games. So but with community college, it can be a bit tricky because sometimes people take a little bit longer than expected. They take 3 years.
Mm.
It's only supposed to be for 2 years, but some take 3 years sometimes. So we'll end up having them for 3 years, and with COVID, a lot of people are taking break years and that type of stuff. So but I will say with 2-year colleges, it's a great opportunity for players that are of high caliber to get
Mhm.
scouted by 4-year colleges before entering like the big bubble of games.
Sure.
I've had a couple players that of high caliber that have been like scouted by other schools. I've been contacted. So
Mhm.
I will say it's a great opportunity and people are looking. There's eyes out there everywhere.
Yeah, so I know that that transfer kind of market is really similar to like even professional sports in the collegiate esports space of like keeping the eyes on the community college programs or the club programs, right? Some of the biggest college names from a notoriety standpoint, like LSU, right? They're not varsity, they don't really have scholarships like or in Clemson, right? Really big name schools, but they also kind of like, the programs that have scholarships kind of poach players from those other bigger programs or community colleges that have top tier talent, but not necessarily scholarships yet. But over time, obviously, what's that kind of future look like for Nova? Take me through kind of your guys's, where are you looking down the road at, so you can make sure that you continue to just grow and succeed on a number of different fronts in esports.
Yeah, I think like our biggest thing, and like this is like our core values in the beginning, is just provide the students with the opportunity to like compete and have fun. That's always been our cores of like why we have this college esports program. It's gonna stay that way. Winning just comes with all of that. I don't believe like we didn't build a program to win everything. We built a program to give the students an opportunity, and I think winning comes along with that. If you choose the right people, then um, you'll keep it afloat for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely right. Programs at the end of the day are made up by people. But kind of my next question is obviously looking at next week. National championship is coming up, and we were talking about a little bit about it earlier. Talk to me about the prep work. What are you guys focusing on right now to make sure that you're best set up to go win that national championship?
Our biggest thing has just been keeping the norm. We've been doing our practices the same. We scrim 1 day a week. The other day of the week, we've been scrimming twice a week, honestly, most of the time. But just keeping up with like the latest with the patch and like the latest up with First Strike and everything for Valorant.
Hmm.
It's been really important to us to watch like the programs, like pro games, and see what they're doing and
Hmm.
like how we can replicate it ourselves, especially with like Korean games and stuff. I mean, they're doing
Hmm.
a lot of interesting things that we want to like take like from them.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say like I'm not trying to like stroke my ego or anything, but like we're really confident going in. We haven't dropped a map in the season. So we play our semifinal match tomorrow, and then if we win that, we'll go to national championship next Friday. So I think we're pretty confident. We're definitely not overconfident, but I think we're just like anxious to play, and we're ready. So
Yeah.
I think we just keep the norm, and we'll be fine.
Exactly. It's all about, I think it sounds like the biggest hurdle that could happen is just nerves, right? You're good enough, haven't dropped a map all season. Obviously that screams like, yeah, you're by far the favorite to say the least. But nerves is a tricky thing. So keeping that norm is obviously a really good way of like, hey, this is just a normal week, normal match, right? Let's just go and win, take care of business, and hopefully hoist that trophy at the end. But we are starting to run out of time here. Usually we only go for about 10 minutes on Spincast. Looking at the collegiate esports scene in general, obviously you have a couple of different perspectives from that playing side and that coaching side. Talk to me about what you kind of want to see change over time, right? Or maybe nothing. Maybe you just love it the way it is right now. But what out there is good, what out there is bad in collegiate esports, because it's still kind of the wild, wild west, right? There's so many new programs, so many new kind of faces and entities entering the space that there's not a whole lot of concrete structure. So just talk to me about, kind
Mhm.
of looking towards the future for the scene in general. What would you like to see come to fruition?
I think the biggest thing for me, like, well, first of all, I'd like to say like college esports right now is like the fastest growing, like it's maybe even faster growing than professional scene. It's
Absolutely.
insane. Like
Absolutely.
all these colleges are coming in, community colleges,
Hmm.
everybody's coming in, everybody wants to put their foot in the bucket.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the only thing I'd like to see change that it hurts for smaller colleges like us is I'd like to have some like regulations on like how long a player can play or maybe like an age limit or something because it can be kind of I will say annoying sometimes that all these pro players are coming in and
Yeah.
like I think it's great like I think it's great
Mhm.
for like publicity and like we're gonna get all these players in and like uh for example like the OC players that came from league and they're like coming to college like that's great but
Yeah.
like for us smaller schools like that though I mean it hurts us like
Yeah.
because like it's really hard we can't recruit like that
Hmm.
but I understand that from college football and everything else like the bigger schools are going to get the better players. But I don't know. I think some regulations should come in. But at the same time, I think like we're in a really good spot right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I always preface that question with what you said is that collegiate esports is growing incredibly fast and it's already so big and there's already so much great things happening already, right? So I'm just super excited to see the future. But I do agree with you is that kind of comes down to that lack of structure, right? Where you have these really big schools with a lot of resources, a lot of money, right, at its core, being able to recruit and get more coaches and have more time and better facilities and better equipment, right? Which obviously you have all of those things. You'll probably be more successful at the end playing against smaller schools, right? Where in traditional sports, everything's kind of tiered out, right? Your big time schools, they all compete in one kind of competition, right? And the smaller ones have their own competition as well. While right now in esports, kind of just a mishmash of everything. So I think over time we'll see those lines separate. So it's more of a fair playing field by resources at least. Totally agree with you. My one last question for you before we run out of time is looking at not just the collegiate esports scene in general, but the esports scene in general, right? So same question, what would you like to see come to fruition for everything esports as same thing, esports is already so big, growing so fast, but yet it's not quite that mainstream media coverage, right? We don't see it on ESPN, you don't see it on primetime NBC, Sunday Night Football quite yet. So kind of, how do we get there, right? What needs to come to fruition to really cement esports as a global competition for everybody?
I think I'm a big like firm believer in Rick Fox. Like
Yeah.
I think like what he says is like perfect. Like we need to start treating esports like as athletes. I mean, we're already recognized as the government as athletes,
Yeah.
but I think it's like it needs to be put on the level of like the NBA and the MLB. I mean, we're probably putting, I wouldn't say we're putting in the equal amount of time
Hmm.
as sports players, sports athletes, and I think it just needs to be more recognized.
Yeah.
We get our show on ESPN like every 2 months for Rocket League. Like that's not enough. Like we need like First Strike on ESPN. We need
Hmm.
LCS on, okay, maybe not LCS, LEC on ESPN.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need more coverage. I mean, the more people learn about like how much time we put in and everything, the more people will respect it and like
Mhm.
respect our grind.
Absolutely, totally agree. There's that difference of like, the government saying, yeah, esports athletes are athletes, but then also just the general public acceptance of like, hey, yeah, you play esports, you are, part of athletics, right? Or you are an athlete, right? And at the end of the day, you put in the same amount of work, right? A college football athlete and a League of Legends athlete, they practice the same amount, right? They play the same amount, right? The amount of work it takes to be that good from just a pure hours perspective is the same, right? You dedicate basically your entire life to that. So at its core, it is the same. So it's just about, everyone else kind of accepting and realizing that that is the case. But we are out of time here. Another great edition of Spincast. John, if you will, go ahead, plug yourself, plug your program. Tell us where we can keep up to date on everything Nova related on social media or any other platforms.
Twitter.com/MVCC Esports, Twitch.tv/Nova Nighthawks. Shout out to the college.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me on Spincast. To all our viewers and listeners, thanks for sticking around the entire time. Stay healthy and stay happy out there, especially with COVID. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and ultimately, stay plugged in.